Got a love sign there. Beautiful heart sign from Robert. Welcome, Robert. All right, you can unmute and just introduce yourself very quickly before we start. No takers. I guess you want me to do all the talking, huh?
I'll introduce. I'm Michelle Yanahan. I'm from outside Chicago, Illinois.
Welcome, Michelle. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. All right. I'm actually based in the UK. I flew in from South Africa yesterday and I'm in Zimbabwe. If you can tell from the beautiful background, nice and warm here.
Beautiful.
That's where I am right now.
Wow.
Yeah. Great. Welcome, Cleo. It's good to see some regular faces as well. Okay, we'll just give it a few more minutes. I see the numbers are picking up right now. Just give it a few more minutes before we start. Can we do maybe 3 more minutes, Vicente?
Yeah, 2 minutes, please.
All right. Okay.
Wait. Hey, Marlon.
Great. I think we can get started, right?
Yeah, let's move
Okay,
ahead.
excellent. All right. Thank you, everyone. Welcome. Really looking forward to this session. I don't know how many of you are here and gave input into the survey that we ran just a couple of weeks back. Anyone who also participated, took part in it, and gave us information? Just a matter of curiosity. Okay, no, that's all right. Okay, so what we'll do is to give you the results of the survey. We've also given our own insight into what the findings are. But those are our insights. Would also love to hear from you what your insights are. Maybe some extensions of what our findings, maybe to give us a few illustrations, share some anecdotes. So I will present hopefully within 45 minutes, and we can have a discussion with that theme in mind for the last 15 minutes. But however, if you do have any, as I presented, if you do have any insightful messages or questions, burning questions, you can put them in the chat, and I'll have one of my colleagues monitoring the chat, and they can, I think, if I'm not aware of it, they can stop me and bring that to light during the presentation. All right, are we ready? We can get started, right? All right. So my name is Marlon Kamesa. Let me just hide my floating things here. All right, here we go. All right. So my name is Marlon Kamesa. I'm HUCMI training partner for the Human Change Management Institute, looking after the Africa and some of the English-speaking countries in UK, Australia as well. And I'm also a member of the change management community, which HUCMI and a great number of people outside of the HUCMI are as well. So we've got a community here, a free collaborative learning community called the Change Management Alliance. Would actually welcome you at the end. I think Vicente will put a link there where you can come through. It's a knowledge sharing, change management knowledge sharing community, free collaborative community. All right. So if you could join us, that would be great. We'd like to get your participation as well. All right. So we did run the survey last year. I'm sure you did notice it say 2025. So we collected sample size of 278 respondents. They were spread across 35 countries and also across 5 continents. All right. So I think this is just in terms of the methodology, just talking about the data integrity around our whole approach. We will share this presentation with you so you can read this up for yourself in terms of how we got to collect data. So just a bit of background information. All right. So in terms of our participants, we had those that have been in change management for about 0 to 1 year, we had about 7.5%. 2 to 5, we had 28.78. 6 to 10, 22.66%. 11 to 15, 16.55, and then 16 plus, 24%. All right. So what's interesting about this finding is that you will find that 64 of the respondents have over 10 years experience, reinforcing the high level of the survey audience, those that participated. And then approximately 36% of change management professionals have fewer than 5 years of experience. All right. So again, we start forming our opinions around this. So we see that in terms of the strategic implications, there is a demand for change management professionals, and it continues to grow, globally, following a trend to reflect increasing professional maturity, especially since the pandemic. So that's quite interesting in terms of our distribution of respondents. All right. And then we also asked the question around the degree of change management integration that is happening on projects. All right. So from the respondents, we had those saying nothing within the 3.25% category, less than 10%, 20 odd percent, less than 20%, about 20, just about 21%. And you can go on to see that we get a larger number with the 40 to 50%, 60 to 70%. And then it starts shrinking right at the bottom there, where you get 80, 90% or 100%. So what does this mean? All right. So again, I'll just go through just our view in terms of the strategic implications. You find that these findings reveal that there's a great opportunity for further, to institutionalize change management within the culture of the organization. I think as professionals, it's upon ourselves to proactively engage, educate leaders. I think that's something that's still ongoing. You find that within your projects, within the workplace, that there is a need to continue educating leaders. We take it for granted that leaders know how to do change management when called upon to change or, to be involved in transformation initiatives. But we should not take that for granted. We need to actually holding hands and educating and engaging leaders in terms of change management. And you also find that the human dimension, in project issues, in terms of even the C-suites, has become quite important as well. So we need to leverage the metrics and the dashboards to clearly, demonstrate the link, around change initiatives so that we can show that they are measurable. And we can provide, I think, some some impact, some direct impact within the workplace. All right. So that's the interesting thing about that. I think that finding, that's our insight. And as I said, you can put in your views as I speak. I'm going blindly here. So Vicente, if you can keep a lookout for me on the chat as well. All right. So we also asked, regarding change management across project delivery models, what is being applied at the moment? A large number, relatively large number, mentioned that Agile is being applied. That's about 28%. Hybrid, which is really the larger, model being applied, is on 38%. And then the linear, predictive, waterfall, that's on the 26% mark. And then something we don't like to see, none at all. We do have quite a, I think it's actually quite startling that we do have in some instances where no delivery model was actually applied, and then other sitting on the 0.24%. So what does this mean for us? All right. Project management, obviously, as you can see from the findings, it's not predominantly shaped by agile and hybrid approaches, which account for 66% plus. And at the same time, too, we still have the predictive methodologies. That's your waterfall methodologies, still supporting about 26% of the projects. All right. So with this in mind, with the agile hybrid approaches dominating projects, we need to develop new capabilities, to have adaptive mindsets and greater operational agility around change management. All right. Did anyone want to say anything? I heard a voice in the background.
No, go ahead,
Okay.
Marlon.
All right. So the dynamics of iterative delivery, decentralized decision making, that's your agile approach, and accelerated value cycles differ quite a great deal from those, from predictive environments, which require more flexible engagement models, as well as continuous engagement with the stakeholders and real-time change orchestration. All right. I'm curious also how many of you are finding that. So if you can keep that in mind, I'd like to hear more in terms of what's happening within your environments. Okay. We also asked a question around strategic alignment as a driver of organizational maturity. All right. So we've got a scale there from 1 to 5, which 1 is low and then 5 is high. So we find that regarding strategic alignment as a driver of organizational maturity, we had 10% sitting on a 1. Level 2, we had 17%, and then level 3, 4 formed the majority on 27, 29, and then level 5 on the high on 40.75. Okay. So what this means is that in essence, only 44% of organizations demonstrate strong strategic alignment, and approximately 56% operate with, for moderate to low alignment. Okay, what does this mean? So we need to ensure, the change management professionals, that we need to ensure that the alignment of the future state vision, strategic objectives, goals, expectations, and project purpose from the outset, beginning with the strategic change management plan. So these they should not be existing in isolation, to what the company wants to achieve, long-term goals, how the project itself is going to contribute to those long-term goals. And then, what sort of strategic approach we need to come about from a change management point of view as well. So quite important right there. Okay, the other question we asked was organizational maturity, the role of leadership support. All right, how much support do you get from leadership? All right, so on the low end, Level 1, we found 7.5%, and then level 2, 20.14%, and then level 3 and 4, just move my shadows right here. Sorry, I can't see that. Level 3 and 4 on 29 and 32%. And then we have level 5, a disappointing 9.71%. All right, just give me a second. Okay, so in that sense, we're finding that fewer than 1/3 of projects receive adequate support from the change leaders. All right. Love to hear your views around that as well. And then we also asked around the global state of change leadership maturity. Okay. How much change leadership has matured within organizations? We found that with regards to minimal, we had about 18.35%. Basic makes up the majority at 50%. And then we have active on 21.22%. Proactive, 5.4%. And then strategic, only a measly 5%. All right, what does it mean for us? So we find that nearly just 7 in 10 change leaders demonstrate only basic or minimal maturity for leading change. All right, we'd like to hear a little bit more around that, especially around this leadership we're talking about. So this is the third slide on leadership. And here we're asking around leadership capability development. So no training was I think the majority finding on 58%, almost 50%. And then yes, but only limited to top management. We've got 21% thereabout. And then yes, but only middle management. We've got 13.67%. And then we've got yes, all levels of leadership, which is what we really like to see. We're sitting on 17.27%. All right. So our analysis is as follows. Only 17% of organizations invest in all levels of leadership development across all levels to support change management. Okay. By contrast, 48%, huge number, provide no formal preparation for leaders to effectively sponsor and drive organizational change. Quite tragic in terms of building up our change leadership capabilities, right? Okay. Okay, so this reveals a critical gap with regards to change leadership capability. While transformation efforts accelerate, leadership readiness has not evolved at the same pace. Okay, implications for us. Many leaders still need, strong awareness and capability development to effectively fulfill their role as change agents. Okay, like I said before, just because they have leadership title, when it comes to transformation and change, dealing with change, and even effective change and leading change, let's not take that for granted. So we need to act as a conduit, to provide that particular knowledge so that they can fulfill their role as change agents. Change management professionals must collaborate with project leaders to establish clear governance, define roles, responsibilities across leadership levels, and structure effective steering routines. Okay, so we also need to look at targeted leadership alignment and mobilization workshops as being an important part of leadership capability. And also, this also enable, for us to instill a sense of agency and position leaders as visible sponsors of sustainable change. All right, so we also asked around, another question we asked was stakeholder engagement as a driver of organizational maturity. Okay. Again, this was split from level 1, which is the lowest, to level 5, the highest. So on the lower end, we find the lowest level 1, 9.35, and then level 2, 23%, level 3, about 36%, level 4, about 24%, and then level 5, just about 7%. All right, so analysis. I'm sure you all find from those findings that it's only about a third of stakeholders that demonstrate high engagement. And then 36 maintain a moderate level of engagement. And then another third require stronger engagement strategies. All right. So what this means for us is that as change management practitioners, we should strengthen advanced capabilities such as identify engagement and resistance drivers. And then we also have what we call a three-dimensional stakeholder engagement approach. Okay, so that looks more intently instead of just having a two-dimensional look at what the dynamics are with change managers, with stakeholders. We have another view, which is really more particular for that particular group or particular stakeholder. So three-dimensional stakeholder management quite important, and I think especially nowadays where projects are moving much quicker. And then we also need to build social influence networks to accelerate stakeholder management maturity. So your social influence networks are your change champions, your change agents, as you may call them. And then above there, we're dealing with your change enablers. Right, low engagement level likely reflects a leadership gap in effectively leading change. All right, we also looked at the global change maturity landscape. All right, so we find that, sorry, I keep having to hide my floating panel right there, so apologies for that. So we find that in terms of what the landscape looks like, we have quite a large number that are still emerging. There's some structure and tools being applied, but that makes up, unfortunately, the majority of the change maturity landscape. And then we've got what we call the initial. So those are your ad hoc, reactive kind of landscapes, and those make up 24%. We've got the managed. Okay, so it's measured, integrated with project and business management. They make up about 15%. And then we've got on the defined, standardized, repeatable across projects, there we are at 14.39%. And then optimized, where we're talking about continuous improvement, innovation, taking into consideration lessons learned, we only have 6.47%. And then where it is institutionalized, all right, we find from the respondents that only 2.88%, make up that last part there, right? So what this means, I think this is basically a repetition of what you've just seen right there, but very quickly, 61% organizations remain at a low level of the change maturity in terms of our landscape. And then fewer than 1 in 4 organizations have achieved a high level of maturity. And change management is widely adopted, but not yet structurally embedded. So what does this mean? So the first challenge for change management professionals is to secure a recognized strategic role within the organization's project and transformation culture. All right. So a bit of proactivity required from us as change consultants. Okay. Being a little bit more strategic, in terms of our engagement within the project space as well as the organization. And then also our findings suggest that those who combine effective, well-orchestrated change with data-driven communication to senior leadership, utilizing the matrices, dashboards, visual reporting, they are more likely to gain credibility, influence, and institutional relevance. I would like to add respect to that as well. All right. Okay. So in other words, strategic positioning increasingly depends on not only managing change effectively, but on demonstrating measurable impact in the language of leadership. Okay, we also looked at the organizational capability development landscape. All right, we also split it up to level 1 to level 5, 5 being the where you want to be, obviously. We find that in change of organizational capability development, on level 1, we've got 24.82%. Level 2, we're sitting at 25.54%. Level 3, 26.62%. And then level 4 on 17.99%. And level 5, just a measly 5.04%. Okay. So analysis, the expansion of change management is not really, it has not been matched by the proportional investment in professional development. Approximately half of the organizations underinvest in capability building. Only 23% allocate sufficient resources to develop change management professionals at a level consistent with institutional maturity. Okay, so what does this mean? Okay, so whilst the human dimension of transformation is widely acknowledged as critical, we find that on the other hand, investing in developing change management and change leadership remains very low, right? The level remains lower than the level required by institutional maturity. Okay. All right. And we will find that, as transformation intensity increases, organizations are likely to expand investment in professionals and leaders capable of generating measurable business value through change execution. All right, so stakeholder engagement assessments. Here we find that if you look on the right hand of my screen, you find that it happens occasionally, like 39.35% of the time. Frequently, we're sitting on 30.69%. Consistently, we're sitting on 15.52%. Rarely on 10.47%, and then not sure, we had 3.97%. So what does this mean? Right? Although change management maturity remains low and investment in capability development is still insufficient, 46% of organizations report a strong focus on stakeholder engagement. And a broader majority expresses active concern within this area. All right, 39% invest in engagement only occasionally, highlighting a structural inconsistency between intention and execution. All right, so what does this mean? Okay, I think this is pretty obvious. Stakeholder engagement is no longer optional. All right, it's now considered critical to project and transformation success. But somehow, this strategic awareness contrasts sharply with the limited amount of investment in developing leaders and change professionals, who can actually sustain high engagement levels. Right. I would love to hear your views around this as well. True value creation through stakeholder engagement will depend on structured capability development, which is grounded in advanced methodologies, integrated governance, and professionalized execution frameworks. All right, we asked around organizational change portfolio. Basically, I think what we've been involved in the different type of projects that the change portfolio has been involved in. You find that the highest number there has been around technology implementations, sitting at 25.61%. Process improvements, 24.19%. Culture change, we're sitting on 18.76%. Organizational restructuring, I thought this would be higher for some reason, but we're sitting on 18.5%. And then policy regulatory change, we're sitting on 6.99%. And then mergers and acquisitions integration, we're sitting on 5.95%. Okay, so analysis. The global landscape, it reflects a balanced application of change management across both technology initiatives and process improvement efforts. And I think in terms of our view, strategic implications for this are that, with the rapid adoption of AI, it is poised to refine this landscape, underscoring decisive role of the human dimension in the success of these transformations. Okay, so basically we're talking about change management, the need to pay more attention to change management. All right, technology implementation is never solely about technology. And then AI further intensifies change management challenge, as resistance is often driven by perceived threats to workforce relevance and concerns about technological displacements. All right, your views once more around this, I would be very interested in. I would like to discuss this as well later on. And then we also looked at the change management tools, the adoption and utilization patterns around these. So you find that greater majority are around communication planning, training planning, management tools, and stakeholder mapping tools. So they're sitting on 78, 74, and 71% respectively. All right. Then you have change impact assessment, 65%, assessment of organizational culture, 46%. And then you have lessons learned map, 46%, the famous risk map, 42%, and then change readiness indicators sitting at 39%, and then employee feedback system, we're sitting at 36%. All right. So we find that, sustainable change does require measurable readiness. Expanding the use of readiness indicators is no longer optional. Again, once more strategic. It's a must do. All right, and then I don't think I'd rate this. Indicators of change assimilation at 28%, and then change management dashboards analytics, 25%. Okay, and other 1%. We also organizational change readiness, the key indicators. There we found that change readiness surveys, in terms of change readiness, that's been used about 50.36% of the time. Stakeholder perception analysis, when we look at change readiness, it's been used 50%, 50.36%. And then training needs assessment as a readiness indicator, that's been used about 48.20%, or precisely 48.20% in terms of our findings. All right, and we have team departmental readiness workshops. Those have been used 38.85% of the time. And then leadership alignment assessments, they have been used 35.61% of the time. And then at bottom level here, resistance mapping, 29.50% of the time. And then communication effective ratings, 27.34% of the time. All right. You got that? Now move on. Okay. And then the change management tool competency assessments. So we looked at several. Well, this was like an open question, and this is what we got from the participants. We found that templates and spreadsheets are still popular, right? And they use most of the time. That's 87.88% of the time. The HCM tools by HUCMI, those are used 76.97% of the time. And then we have the ProSci change management platform. We had 58.18% of the time. The ATCA dashboard, 53.33% of the time. Nenham, I hope I pronounced it correctly, 18.79% of the time. And then we've got other ones not so popular, the Change Campus, the Change Hub, and the Org Mapper. Those have been used 16.36%, 7.88%, and then 4.24%, respectively. Okay, so our analysis as follows. The comparative analysis demonstrates that this discipline is still far from fully embracing digital transformation with change management practices. We also find that approximately 88% of change management professionals report greater familiarity with spreadsheets and strategic templates. Are there any guilty parties here on that point? All right. I don't see hands going up. Great. Okay, this finding highlights a significant digital capability gap within the change management profession. All right. So what this means is basically that we need, as change leaders, change consultants, change enablers, we need to evolve towards adopting more advanced technological solutions. It makes our job much easier, even in terms of reporting. It's much quicker, and it's also, I think the optics are also quite great as well when you do use the more advanced technological solutions. All right. Beyond productivity gains, digital enablement drives greater efficiency, enhances communication with senior leadership, and strengthens the discipline's ability to demonstrate measurable business value. Okay. Change management office presence, something that I think has become quite a topic of discussion. So we did ask, from the respondents, do you have a fully fledged change management office? And we find that the majority said no. 62.95% said no. Only 23.74% said yes. And then in progress, we have 13.31%. Okay, analysis. Okay, nearly 63% of organizations do not have a structured change management office, a CMO. Only 24% have reached this level of organizational sophistication. Okay, so this also aligns, this particular finding, it aligns with the gaps that we spoke about in terms of stakeholder engagement consistency, leadership maturity, we spoke about that early on, and then the investment in capability development. So the investment in change management, change capability development. All right, so we kind of say this makes sense with this particular finding. It aligns. So the implications, the establishment of the CMO represents the next structural milestone in the change management evolution. Okay, as organizations move from episodic change execution to continuous transformation, formal institutional anchoring becomes very, very important. Okay. This goes without saying that the future change management will increasingly depend on its leaders' ability to institutionalize the function and not merely execute initiatives. All right. Organizational placements of change management function. So where is change management placed, located? Where is it found within the organization? We found that the majority is within HR. Change management sits in HR 30.63% of the time. In IT, it's 13.65%. None, maybe just floating around. Scary, but we're looking at about 11.81% of the time. Sitting within the PMO, we have 11.81% of the time. Sitting in digital transformation, 10.7%. Strategy management, 9.59%. Quality and process improvement, 7.38%. And then other, 4.43%. Okay. So just our little analysis right there of you. From the finding, we get that in over 30% of organizations, change management remains structurally associated with HR. Right. However, in more matured organizations, particularly those that formalize the change management office, this function is increasingly positioned within digital transformation and the strategic management areas. Okay. So that we find that there is a bit of a shift, all right? So this suggests that as institutional maturity increases, change management evolves also from being predominantly people-centric to a strategic governance capability. All right. So just very quickly here. Human resources emerges as the most prevalent function anchoring change management. I'm sure even for some of you as well, that's the case. Playing a central role in delivering strategic value through organizational transformation. However, change management has not yet been consolidated as a fully institutionalized domain within a single clearly defined department. So functions traditionally associated with digital transformation, such as IT, PMO, strategic management, they increasingly appear as key protagonists in leading organizational change initiatives. All right. So we did go on also to ask about some of the top challenges that you come across in terms of change management. We find that cultural misalignment is a barrier to change. That came out 51% of the time. So 51% of the time, with cultural misalignment as a barrier to change. Resistance from employees and leaders as a barrier of change on 38%. Limited visible and active leadership support, we're sitting on 34%. Insufficient resources, okay, that's time, budget, staffing, we're sitting at 34%. And then the low prioritization of change management by project and program leadership. Here we're sitting at 24%. All right. So in terms of elevating change management capabilities, this is what we found. In the 30.5% instances, making leadership and specialist capability building a strategic priority. All right. That we found 30.5% of the time from the survey. And then another way to elevate change, organizational change management capabilities. What was stated here is position change management as a visible and strategic discipline in the market. Okay. Another way of doing so, elevating change, accelerate the adoption of methodologies and tools whilst integrating change management with project management. And then we have establishing clear metrics and KPIs to demonstrate the financial ROI of change management. Interesting one. And then on 4.8%, elevating executive sponsorship and activating senior leadership engagement. That's on 4.8%. And then on 4.1%, it's embedding change management into organizational culture. And then on 3.6%, it's strengthening professional networks and creating communities of practice. Great. How am I doing for time, Vijender? I think that's my last slide here.
It's okay.
All right. So I guess that's the last slide I had. But I'd like to acknowledge people who ran behind putting this survey all together, Eamon and Joao. Really appreciate that. And I'd like now maybe to open up, the findings for discussions. Should I keep the slides on just in case maybe we need to go back to some of the findings? Should we do that? Okay, Ramana, I see your hand up.
Hi, Vincent. Good evening from India. That's a wonderful data that we have collected through that survey. There are a couple of points that I wanted to discuss here. Number one is that where does the change management current should be? That is one of the key areas that needs to be addressed on priority. I always find a challenge when HR handles the change and the leadership of the organization doesn't know what's coming and what's the vision. It's a very, very we call us a dangerous situation. And in one of the slides you had mentioned, Marlon, is that there are uh, it's currently with digital transformation. The change management is with digital transformation. Yes, currently would I mean, like if I had the opportunity to engage with certain companies in India recently, been talking to certain companies where they have a DT team, digital transformation team, which is also running the change. Apparently, when I asked them where was the change management prior to that, they didn't have any, because most of the companies are jumping on to digital transformation as a project, and then they have the change management capabilities brought into it. That's how it is. And the most important thing is that what I find in this part of the world is that none of the organizations are willing to invest in uh, change capabilities or trainings to the people from an organization point of view. They want the individuals to do the training themselves, come back to them, and then show them the certificate that they've done, and they'll take it forward from there. But from an organization perspective, I see that the lack of enthusiasm or the lack of what do you call the interest in getting their people trained. At least in the last 6 months, that is what I've been seeing here. I don't know how is it on the other side as well. That's it from my side.
Okay. Thank you, Ramana, for that. Does anyone else want to share the experience with regards to what Ramana just mentioned there?
Hi, this is Caroline. I can't be on the on video right now, but I agree. I have worked on many organizations, with many organizational transformation projects, and I've been told often from C-suite leaders, well, we don't really pay for change management. And my argument is basically it's your insurance policy. How do you want your experience to be for this initiative? And I think that as long as the change leader has a seat at the table, meaning steering committee sessions face to face, and that topic is brought up pre-project kickoff, then it's a better experience for the organization. I always assume that leaders don't know what they don't know. And part of the steering conversation is, these are your roles and responsibilities as a leader in order to make sure that this project is successful. Because they don't know. I mean, I've worked with vice presidents that don't know that they're supposed to model and champion change. So we can't assume that they know. I just incorporate that they need to be trained as part of the project. And I also understand that sometimes it's challenging when change is in HR, because HR doesn't necessarily have a seat at the table when they talk about business initiatives, right? And so, you know, I've negotiated between IT and HR leaders saying, where do you want change management to live after this project? And they always, well, my experience has been, they defer it back to IT because they know that they have the capabilities with project management, and they have to understand that the project manager and the change manager have to work collaboratively. And the organizations that don't understand that, they have a more challenging experience.
Yeah.
But I was wondering, from your survey, were there any indicators regarding mid-market versus enterprise experience?
Okay. Would you like to take that, Vicente? Vicente, you'd like to take that? I think the question was, sorry, Carol, if you can repeat that for Vicente, if you can take that, Vicente.
My question was, I love everything that you presented. I think it's great, and I agree with a lot of it. But I was wondering, do you have any statistics regarding working with, you know, like lower mid-market versus upper mid-market and enterprise teams? Because the question is always around budget. How am I going to make sure I have the right resources, additional capabilities to support change? If, you know, especially lower mid-market companies, their budgets are tighter than enterprise, right? So I'm just wondering if if you had any stats regarding mid-market and enterprise.
No, I don't think so. At
Okay,
least at
no,
this
that's great.
time, we do not split it in different uh, how could I say, enterprise and middle
Yeah.
markets and companies.
Okay. No, this is
Right.
wonderful information. It supports all of the arguments I have with leaders that don't bring change management as a specific, and then standing up a change management team. I think I always
Yeah.
feel like this is an educational process, and you have to start, if you're lucky enough to be at the seat of the
Yeah.
table prior to project kickoff, it has to start. And then talk about, even if we have to script everything that leaders need to say and share with their teams,
Yeah.
here's what we want you to say. Here's the bullet points. Say it in, whatever form you're comfortable. But here's the script. You got to follow the script. You need to follow. This is what we want you to do, so that they understand their role and responsibilities, because a lot of them don't really know.
That's it. That's it. No, that's very true, Carol. But Caroline, I also find that, when you start, typically on most of the projects I've been on, the roles are defined for the project team and the consultants working on it, but not so for the leadership of the organization. So
Yeah.
once you have, well, so the sponsor does not know how to sponsor, for example,
Right.
and they expect it to play a critical role on the project,
Right.
or you get too many sponsors, that nothing happens, at the same time. So it's quite important, I think, just to get that roles responsibility clarity upfront,
Mm-hmm.
and have the tough discussions that if you're not available to sponsor, if you cannot do, if you're not available for the project, let's rather have the difficult conversation now, because later it can be quite destructive to the project.
Right. And I think that's why the CM and the PM both have to be at the steering committee meetings. So
That's
those
it.
topics are discussed as part of the overall program status.
That's it. That's it. That's it. Totally agree. All right. I have a few people commenting in the commentary section. Rory, I know you'd like to say something. How are you, Rory? You on mute?
I know. Sorry.
All right.
That's the classic scenario. How are you, Marlon?
How are you doing, Rory?
Good, good. Thank you for the opportunity. I put a couple of comments in there. And I guess my biggest comment that I would love for the team to ponder on is the global uncertainty environment, especially since the end of February. Here we are talking around change as though it's, let's just do a deep dive and do the analysis. The world has changed in the last 2.5 weeks.
Yeah.
And my honest question is, guys, is this currently valid? And we really need to be asking that as a hard question. I mean, if you look at what's happened at the moment with, you mentioned that we need to become more digitally enabled and so on. Just look at what happened this last week in terms of Anthropic stepping back from the whole, ethical issue with the American government. And look at the consequences literally in the last 2 days in terms of Oracle laying off another 30,000 headcount. So yes, let's go and get involved in this AI stuff over there, but it's a mess. It absolutely is a mess.
Yeah. Yeah. No, totally agree with you, Rory. Totally agree with you. All right.
Can I say a point here?
Sure, Ramana, go for it.
I agree with you, Rory, on what you mentioned. But however, the impact of when the oracles lay off or whatever is happening, I still feel that there's a lot of work for us as change practitioners to take it forward. I mean, like we have a lot of things happening from AI. That's one point. But if you look into the downsizing of organizations, you will see mostly impacted organizations are the IT related stuff.
All right.
But
Great.
change is not only with IT. There are so many other things. And even with IT, I feel that we have a lot of role to play where opportunities are there. but the leadership and the leadership from that company, the organizations are failing to see that. There's a lot
That's
of
it.
places that we can contribute, we can help, and we can, uh, um, I mean, make a place a better place to work. But unfortunately,
Yeah.
we are not allowed. There's a
That's it. Yeah,
there's a
I
roadblock.
like that. That's it. That's it. I like that. All right. I see we've got a few more minutes. I wanted to bring something to the fore. It's been mentioned twice in the commentary, in the chat section rather, around matrix, around change management matrix. I think Michelle, Robert, quite a few things to say right there on the chat. Would you like to discuss a little bit more? Maybe, what matrices, what has become important within your environments right now? And I think we spoke about the need for matrices as well. How are we doing in terms of our way we currently work on our projects? What's been the experience like? Okay, can I unmute?
Yeah, it's Michelle. So I think we've got a
Okay.
long way to go on metrics. And
Yeah,
when I say metrics, that sounds kind of flat. What I
yeah,
mean is really showing the value of our work, right? Positioning our work as a driver for
yeah,
the hard benefits, right? For benefits, outcomes, ROI. I mean, that's why we're doing change in the first place. If change is attached to a project, and most times it
mm,
is, unfortunately, most, as we saw, most organizations don't have kind of overall change management where they're looking at the humanistic piece. If it's
yeah,
attached to a project, that project is being done for a specific reason, right? Our work, right, is a lever to that. But I think most organizations don't see it that way,
yeah.
don't have the foresight or the long tail to really do benefits realization and see.
Yes,
Plus, we haven't positioned what we're measuring and how we're measuring in our work to say, if these critical human behaviors are done, we actually are getting our business benefits outcomes and ROI faster, right?
yeah,
So there's a lot to unpack there. But again, the quick point of that is I think that,
yeah,
our metrics are a little soft. And I think I think organizations aren't doing enough. I don't even know if metrics is the right word around metrics isn't the right word, heat mapping around the, concurrency of change, how much people can actually take on, how we're basically, you know, people are underwater and we're throwing more on top, right? So that's not a metric, but that's more a data view that says, can we better plan for change? Can we better right size change to fit people's capacity? So there's, again, we're at the end here, but I could talk forever, but about
yeah.
that. I just think we have a long way to go in the discipline to show our value and get our seats at the table, which is what some folks have been talking about. And I know you mentioned Robert, so I'll turn to Robert and see if he wants to
Yeah.
add anything here. Sorry, Robert, to put you on the spot.
That's how we love it.
Oh, good.
Go for it, Robert.
Um, for the sake of, trying to keep my comments to 30 seconds or so, I
Mm,
do believe hard metrics are possible. I think they're compelling. I've already posted on them and I put the link in the chat in case anyone else would like to join that conversation, push back, good, bad, or ugly. I welcome reactions. The only addition for now is that metrics for change management, I believe, are not isolated to the silo of change management, right? We don't work in isolation. There are adjacent professions and functions and titles, et cetera. And these metrics, I think that we need to build metrics for the bigger picture before we distill any change manager or change management specific metrics. So going back to that term, orchestration, I think orchestration and synchronization, imitating a symphony, must be first. I think
yeah.
structure is fourth. I don't think
Mm,
where change management reports, I think that is way significantly downstream and separate conversation. But um, so I do believe in hard metrics. I'd love
yeah,
anyone or everyone else's ideas for it, but I believe that the first suite of metrics transcend our narrow world of change management. They're bigger picture metrics that are worthwhile.
totally agree with you, Robert. And I think that's been my frustration over the years in terms of making an impact on the benefits realization on the business case. You know, what you just mentioned right there. Great stuff. I'll take one more comment. Inputs. Kinilwe, go for it.
Yes, good afternoon,
Good
Jamila
afternoon.
from Botswana. So, I agree with most of the findings, but my challenge still comes just as with one of the submissions here. It comes around where change management is supposed to be structured, because then with structure also comes power. For me, experience-wise, I think it's it's more of we do change management. Yes, there's structure, but if you don't give it power in terms of where it's supposed to be. For me, it stays in the strategy and transformation. But if you give it more power, then all those other things are kind of sorted. I hear we talk to matrix. Matrix are already defined. We use the ProSci
Mm.
methodology. That's right. Matrix are already defined in that aspect. So you know if the structure of your project in change management, how it's supposed to be, then you define your matrices when it starts and so forth. So my only really thing that makes me uneasy is the structure, because again, structure gives power. And I will only be able to sponsor if
Yeah.
there's that power. If you put it as a by the way, maybe on your low level checklist kind of thing, unfortunately I don't think it really is. Yeah, thank you.
All right. Maybe a suggestion would be to put this as a question to the link, right? Where should change management be positioned? All right. We would like to hear from you. Where just maybe from one other person. Where do you think it should be? Maybe just very quickly in the chat there. Where do you think change should be positioned? Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. So we will ask that. I think my suggestion is that we'll put that in the link where we also share the presentation with you. All right. We've run out of time, and I don't like to go over the time that we've allocated us. So
Marlon,
thank you so much. Yeah.
Marlon, just one. Let me share one important slide from
Sure.
this presentation that is related with what Robert has said. That is the lack of use of change assimilation and dashboards, analytics to enhance our communication with change leaders, with senior management. They will not see the value of change management if we don't speak their language. So without measurable assimilation and executive level reporting, change management struggles to earn strategic credibility. And this is one of the things that make me think about what we have been doing as change managers in terms of the use of tools to communicate our work with the senior leadership. We must
Yeah.
do better and have better results. And the research shows it.
That's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. No, thank you so much for that. We will share. I think Vicente has also shared right here the link to the
Yes.
presentation, as well as I think this presentation as well. So we will. I think we'll also ask that question: where should change management be positioned within the organization? It'd be great to hear your insights as well, and we'd like to further engage with you. So thank you so much for taking your time. We will hear from you very soon as well. We encourage you to please join the Change Management Association. It's a free knowledge sharing community with I think we currently have about 3,000, 6,000 change practitioners. So your participation will be encouraged there as well and welcome. Thank you very much. All right then. All right.